What are general conditions in a construction contract? Well, if you're visiting me here, you can know that it can cost you thousands if you do not understand what the general conditions are. So in this video, we're going to learn what the difference is between general conditions and special conditions, and we're going to identify some of the major components that you'll find in general conditions to help you successfully manage a construction project. Did you know that overlooking the general conditions of a construction project can cost you thousands? What about understanding the difference between general conditions and special conditions? How can you make sure that your general conditions are clear and concise? Well, as a general contractor, it is critical to understand that there's more to a construction project than just the drawings. First, we'll start off with understanding what are general conditions. So general conditions are part of the specifications. Now, depending on what type of job you're on, you could be on a simple project or a very complex project. And the difference in those is going to show a difference in the type of specifications that are included with your drawings for the project. In smaller projects, it might just be some general notes that are going to be on the drawings and a sheet of paper that identifies some of the general aspects of the project that the owner wishes to implement. But on a complex project, you're going to have a set of specifications that is going to clearly define every aspect of your construction project, and the important part of that are the general conditions. In these general conditions, they're going to provide administration criteria that needs to be followed in this particular construction project. It's going to identify things like how long to wait before you can put in a claim, what percentage of retention is going to be held, and it can identify what you have to do in those situations when there are God events that have taken place that you had absolutely no control over. But a general condition is going to be the general criteria over this particular project. There are mistakes that can happen in these general conditions because they're often used from a template of another project that's similar to the project that you've been in, but maybe not exact. And that's why we reach for the special conditions. The special conditions are almost like an addenda that have been included to override some of the areas of the general conditions that don't either apply to this particular project or need more refinement in order for it to help be a successful contracting document. So when we're looking at special conditions, those are going to be very clear and concise of the particular project that you're working on, and they're going to be used to override sections of the general condition that are going to be helping you in the administration of your project. Many common components of the general conditions are going to be outlining what our criteria is going to be when we're looking at labor, material, and equipment being used on this construction project. It's going to identify work days, work hours. It's going to be able to let us know what steps or processes we need to take when there becomes an issue on the job site or anything that we might have any questions on. The general conditions may also have the potential of impacting cost and schedule of your project. They could have information in the general conditions that identify times during the year when certain amount of rainfall is acceptable based on the NOAA, and that's going to be the weather channel that we're going to look at to determine how much moisture we're going to allow during certain times of this project. It's going to identify and dictate allowable timeframes or delays that are associated with that. So depending on the area that you're in, depending on the type of work that you're going to be performing, it's very important to make sure that you get your negotiated terms into the general conditions. So one of the great things about general conditions is that it is there for everyone to see. So the owner knows what the general conditions say, the inspector, the construction manager, the contractor, the subcontractors, and the architect all know what's in the general conditions. These are typically generated by the architect with input from our other stakeholders. So when we're negotiating what's going into the general conditions, we want to be able to do it to align with how we're going to be managing the project. It's very important that we look at best practices of how to manage the project based on the general conditions. This is going to be your baseline through the entire project. This is what you're going to go back to and reference whenever there are problems or issues on the job site. So the interpretation and following the general conditions is going to be critical when you're managing a project. For the contractor, we want to ensure that they understand the potential impact that can come by not following the contract. Construction is a complex industry, and so we want to be as clear and concise as we can, but sometimes the general conditions aren't as clear as we would like them to be. And so the purpose for us going through and using these as an administrative document is for us to understand the importance of being able to create documentation and history for the project when things don't go right. Some of the issues that can arise from our general conditions will impact the schedule and the financial budget of our contract by not taking care of issues that may cause delay or having clear understanding of the different types of softwares that are going to be managing your project, of understanding the percentages of retainage that are going to be held on a project, to be able to understand how a change order is going to be submitted. These are all administrative aspects that make it extremely important that everybody is on the same page. So by being able to implement a general conditions that provide clear direction to everyone is going to help avoid some of these pitfalls. So for some people, there's a question on how detailed do you have to be? And I'm going to say it all really depends on the project that you're working on. I was working on a project that had some very specific details that were included in the general conditions that significantly helped the success of the project. It just removes one more thing for the construction manager and the general contractor to argue about. By having it clearly defined in the general conditions, it allows us to be able to refer back to that baseline so that we all have a starting point of putting each other and our minds all in the same frame. So knowing and understanding, for instance, when there's going to be seasonal areas that you're going to be working in, sometimes that ground might be frozen or sometimes there might be heavy rains. We know that in construction, we're not going to be able to work on the exterior of a construction project under some of those conditions. So being able to structure how that looks in the general conditions will be very important. For instance, if the contractor leaves out weather protection in their best management practices, then they may try to submit a change order in order for the owner to pay for weather protection during a season that clearly was going to always be a wet season. And so being able to have this type of clarification in the general conditions is going to help your project run smoothly. Understanding specifications is a key resource in being able to successfully manage your projects. So if you want to learn the essentials of construction management and how to be able to manage your general conditions in the specifications, then make sure to check in and hit the link below, and I will walk you through this journey with Construction Management Online.